Hey there, welcome to episode 45 of the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program. Recording midday, January 5, that's a Friday, 2024. Happy New Year. My head is stuffed, the weather is changing, it is quite cold, so forgive me for throat clearing and other irritations. My right ear feels like it's popped. I don't know if that makes sense. Eustachian tube fluid blockage, perhaps. But on with the show. I'm your host, Dan Hugo. I usually don't have any guests anymore. One of these days I will. My resolution for 2024 is to get back on the host booking tip. It's always a challenge here in Vegas, even remotely. But today's episode, we need to talk Greater Vegas. Is there a comma? Is it we need to talk, comma, Greater Vegas, as though I'm addressing Greater Vegas? I've personified it. I've anthropomorphized Greater Vegas. Or do we just need to talk Greater Vegas? We'll see. As usual, the show notes. Hopefully you can see them. I really got to get our website properly updated. Spotify will become, it's always weird to give like time-related updates in an audio program like this, but whenever you're listening to this, hopefully our website, cafegenius.org, will be hosting the primary hosting of our audio program content, and then Spotify and the other sites that are kind of attached to the Spotify feed, like Amazon and whatever, Google Podcasts for the next 10 minutes until they cancel it and so on. Those will be secondary, so we can publish the primary feed, the show notes, the way they should look. I know Spotify kind of screws them up. But anyway, I digress. The show note links. First of all, as always, my shameless self-promotion, buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo, coffee.com, ko-fi.com. You know, if you've ever seen The Wonders. No, that thing you do about the Wonders. You remember when Tom Hanks meets the band, and they're spelled The Wonders, but when they get introduced at the talent show and in general, they're the Oneaters. It's like, no, The Wonders. And then when Tom Hanks gets there, it's like, yeah, we're going to have to change this spelling. They said, what? We're the Wonders, like the Beatles. He says, you're not the Beatles. So anyway, coffee.com, ko-fi/DanHugo. So those are my out-of-band update sites. You can certainly support the various efforts that are listed there, but I basically just use those for, I just have my projects listed there. Buymeacoffee.com is yet another website with awful profile editing or really display tools. You know you're in trouble when you edit on the site. So it's a WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. Text editor. It really just has a bold and link. You can create bullet lists, and then when you save, it doesn't display a bullet list. Things like that. So it's kind of sad, but it is what it is. You can, it's a one pager, really, and you happen to be able to literally buy me a coffee. And anytime you do that, I will literally spend money on coffee. All of my, I think it's 5 supporters, all of the money they've ever contributed went to purchase coffee beans, or possibly, I'm trying to think I think I just bought coffee beans. So there you go. Let's run down the rest of the links. I'm sure I'll touch on the Buy Me a Coffee at the end. Now, this is about our economic ecosystem. There is an upcoming episode to follow up on the post Formula One rundown. I did a pre and mid. There's some data floating around. The actual sort of tourism number impact is something like 300,000, I think it was. The data is published on the LVCVA.com, that's Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority.com website, but not in the report pages have not been updated the last time I looked, which was a couple days ago, because I'm not doing that show yet. But the data still showed that it was through October. We want it to be through November. So they have published some data, but I'm just going to wait until all of the readouts are set for November. then we can take a look at what they got. But it doesn't look like tourism was crazy. And so one of the first articles I have here is from the Nevada Independent, that the Formula One event was great for gaming, but the downtown part of Vegas, the part that's really in the city of Las Vegas, didn't see as much action. Like people stuck to the event if they were here for it, and they hung out on the Strip. Or, and this was true for me as well, and I make a difference. I really didn't go anywhere. I just wanted to stay away. In fact, I went away for a couple days during the Formula One time. So I was gone like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I was not here for the race. Good riddance, said Vegas of me. But yeah, so I can see where we all just, I mean, that's one of the challenges for those of you who do not live in Las Vegas. When you go to Vegas, you're committing to a win. Just like I left Vegas for that weekend. You're committing. Maybe you went for the race. Maybe you're going to gamble. Maybe you're just going to see a show, get out of Dodge, go to Vegas and hang out, whatever you're doing. You're going to go, and then you're going to leave. You're going to go back home or wherever. When you live here and you're like, this weekend is Formula One, not going downtown, not going to the Strip, not going to try to get around anywhere. Vegas will be here on Monday and every day after. The trees at the Bellagio are even coming back. So there's nothing really permanent, and there's really no reason if you already live. So if you're one of the 2.3 million people that live in Clark County, things are pretty much going to be there next week. So when an event drives away locals and that shows up in the numbers, it's interesting. It's not a surprise, but it is interesting. Something else we'll probably want to look at is the actual New Year's Eve celebration turnout. The headlines were that 400,000 people would participate. And here again, you're probably looking at tourists or visitors plus locals who would go down to the Strip for some reason, watch fireworks. I got to tell you, I have done this. One time I was at Trump Tower, Trump whatever it is, Trump Casino, Trump whatever they call it. It's not really a casino. There's no gambling. But the Trump Hotel here in Vegas. I was in a room that was facing south, so you can see, we probably saw like 6 or 7 fireworks demonstrations around the greater Vegas area. So if you can get somewhere high up, if you can fly in a helicopter, hire Maverick to fly you around, you can head out to, if you want to head to like San Francisco or Denver, you'll probably take off, loop around, start heading north. And if you time it right, fly over some of the show. So yeah, there are ways. But anyway, so 400,000 was the estimate. I heard it was quite dead. So we'll see what those are actually looking like. If you read the reports in some headlines, some articles with very attractive headlines, like on the Review Journal, the Formula One race went exceptionally well. Now, when you read some articles, they will point out that most of the accolades are a result of reporting by the Formula One people. So it went well for them, and therefore it went well. On the other hand, if you speak to smaller businesses that depend on people being able to get to them physically, or that count on tourism numbers that may have skewed the wrong direction, it's kind of like a Black Friday situation, right? Like you kind of count on people showing up according to the calendar. I don't know that that's a great position to be in, but it's surely something that is not figured into the big boy, and unfortunately it is big boys, when they're running the numbers on these big events. The fun economy. Empowering entrepreneurship. EDON, I've referred to this many times. It's a rundown of the whole state. The last third or so, page 66. No, it's not. I can't remember which page it is. There's a cutoff line where you'll get southern Nevada. So north, south, central, the entire state. It's all in there. I point to it only because I don't think anyone who paid for the report at EDON in Washoe County or LVGEA here in Clark County, or anywhere else really. I think the GOED, the Governor's Office of Economic Development, I think EDON drove it. It's certainly published on their website, and I think the other entities and agencies contributed. You may recall that I had a nice episode of Impresarios with the author, the researcher, and publisher of that report, Mo Collins. The more I think about that, it was a part 1. There was to be a part 2. I don't know that there will be. I would very much like to speak to Mo about some of the things that I would do differently. We kind of touched on that, and I actually had my Vegas Lax document draft that I had prepared in about late February, and this report was published in April 2023, I think April 29th. And I offered up my assessment that was the result of our Genius Roundtable discussions as they were up to that time. As I've examined more of that, and this will be the first item that I get to in the notes here, but there is a lot more to talk about. And I think, I read the report, and we had our episode probably, days apart because the report had just come out. So now that there's been some reflection, some time to kind of read it again, skim through a couple of the sections specifically, the number one thing, well, the two things that I think they became clear later, and I wish I would have had an opportunity to bring them up that first time. But the two big things are the selection bias that is inherent, blatant in the way, and we discussed this during the episode, that Mo did warm introductions to build up the cohort of people to interview in Southern Nevada. I don't know how she did in the other parts of the state. So she started with someone at SBDC. She said, I took and I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember the exact quote, but she said, I took the same path an entrepreneur would. I went to SBDC. And I don't know if I would go to SBDC. That's another episode for another time. But she started there and got some introductions and started meeting other people. So I think she said it was 246 or something, some number like that. And using the warm introduction method, you can assure yourself that everyone in that cone, that quadrant, that pie slice of the pie chart that is Southern Nevada, they'll probably all know each other. There'll all be 2 or 3 degrees of separation, right? So I have been throwing around this number, and it literally just occurred to me now that either this is where I got that number, or it's coincidence, it's probably correct. I've been saying there's 250 people in the quote unquote startup scene. And if that's what she found, maybe, although I know she didn't find everyone. So it's possible that she didn't speak to people who I would have put in the quote unquote startup scene. Maybe they were actual entrepreneurs. And sorry, maybe that was a little bit mean, but the number is something like 250. And so those are the people that are showing up to the entrepreneurial events, possibly would call themselves entrepreneurs. I don't know that an outside independent survey would label them that, but either way, it's about 250 people. I hope there's more than that. So the selection bias in the way she did the warm introduction assembly of her cohort was one of the problems. And then the other one was, we haven't even gotten to the notes yet, just still going through the links. The other one was she didn't really touch on the gap. And I sort of touched on this because I listed cultural and infrastructure lackings in my document, which is about 15 pages. Her document's 101 with the cover. So I think she didn't touch on it. She didn't bring it up as an issue. So I think it was sort of the lingering, the dark matter. Like, what is the missing thing? You can talk numbers, and she did pull up some numbers from, was it Deal Desk or something? I can't remember, Deal, whatever, which is a very poorly maintained sort of Crunchbase style resource that tells you how many startups are in this area. I believe it is sponsored by Startup NV. There were some things on there that looked very out of date. So, but the data that's on there appeared in this report. So my thing would be not only was there selection bias in the assembly of the cohort, but too much surface level or I don't want to say unverified, but you can take data at face value and believe it. That's what I would expect from, a college student writing a paper on our entrepreneurial ecosystem. And I don't know what the fee was for this, but I think using data, it would have been interesting to get actual data and then use the existing data as a check, right? We found this, and then here's this room, whatever it is. And then here's what's actually published, and you can see there's a difference, possibly because the data is not maintained. But the lack of investigation into the culture of innovation, I think, was the key missing component. It leaves the Greater Vegas area vulnerable to the misconception that there's a lot of potential here, because you would believe that there's a lot of potential here, but you would not then know that there's no true desire, or I don't know if it's desire. There's no sort of innate want, W-O-N-T, to execute on entrepreneurial innovation, innovative entrepreneurialism. It's very much a, well, somebody else will do it mentality more often than I would hope it to be. So not everyone. And that's my whole point about the size of the crowd of people in the startup scene. I think there are people that show up for things. And as I heard many times during the Downtown Project days, whenever I would ask someone, because I was not a part of Downtown Project, I was a spectator. I've mentioned this before. I'm here this week. I'm traveling for work. I used to travel all the time for Intel. I used to run into very innovative people in different parts of the world. So I use that as a yardstick very often. I would say, how come I never run into you at these various gatherings, social outings? And the answer was always, I'm working on my startup. I don't have time. So, and I've talked about this before with the dilution of the, what's the number? 150 people. Totally spacing on this. The number of people you should maintain working relationships with, friends, family, acquaintances. I can't, it's not coming to me. So the same people are out at the, the tech alleys and the similar, it's mostly tech alley, the link up, the level up. You see the same people. When you see new people, they're always clicked together. So the people you don't always see are off talking amongst themselves. There's probably something to that. So I think we need to explore more of those 2.3 million people instead of talking to the same 250-ish. So the sort of along those lines, accidental segue. The next link is the City of Las Vegas GeoCommons. So that's open data that's published. It's the geographical oriented open data published on the ArcGIS website. So it's maintained by the City of Las Vegas. They have done us all a favor and gathered business license information from a large chunk of Clark County. So the ArcGIS map view, living near a street. I should say my studio near a street. The ArcGIS geographical data viewer is not attractive. It is functional, not beautiful. You can see a blue dot for every business license they have on file. I did not note when I grabbed this link when the last update was, but it was fairly recent. Last time I did make a note of that. What that will tell you, and you can zoom in and out and pan around the graph and all that. If you zoom out too much, you won't see any data. So you got to zoom in a little bit. You'll see the blue dots all over the place. And what you're seeing is a business license for every blue dot. If you imagine that, half, I don't know what the number is, I'm going to guess, half are entrepreneurial ventures. Maybe somebody opened a restaurant or a bookstore, coffee shop, tailor, whatever. Maybe they're a DJ, maybe, whatever it is. Each dot is a business. And you will probably not notice immediately, but there are more than 250. So I'm going to assume there are more than 250 entrepreneurs. And if we imagine to ourselves that not every dot on there is also not a tech startup with unicorn potential, but just a business, maybe even a successful one. We might venture into that first issue I have with the report that I referenced earlier, the Empowering Entrepreneurship document. The selection of warmly introduced startup scene characters doesn't get you the not startup scene entrepreneurs. So even though some of the data was referenced in the report, you're not talking to those people. Maybe she did. I don't know all 246 or whatever it was, but I do know that I was surprised that some of the people I spoke with said they never got contacted. They never heard back when they tried to contact Mo about being in the cohort and so on. So I would have to wonder, again, selection bias. So I think it was flawed from that perspective. Some of the conclusions made in the report are, unfortunately, agree with my own notions. So there wasn't really much to argue about as far as content. Nothing was too surprising. I mean, if you come upon a car on the road and it has 4 flat tires, and you say, you need to fix this tire, and then you need to fix this tire, you list 4 things you need to fix. You're like, wow, thanks. But you can probably figure that out. It's 4 flat tires. So I don't think it was a great leap to say that we need to have better communication tools. We have isolated or insulated communities. There were several things in it. I'll let you read it. But not dialing in on the innovation culture or lack of. And innovation culture is not tangible. You can't look at it directly. So you sort of have to look at things like what kind of startups, what kind of entrepreneurial ventures? Do people show up for innovation events? Are they interested in innovation, or are they workers or founders? Right? I think there's all kinds of metrics you could use to figure out what the viability of an innovation culture is. Innovation culture goes hand in hand with the entrepreneurial ecosystem. I'm not exactly sure where one begins, one ends, but I think that's the biggest gap in focus. And then the biggest issue with method was the warm introductions. Okay, we're still in the links. Hold on. I don't even know if we're already over 20 minutes. Nevada Business and the Vegas Business Digest, I have links to their homepages. These are examples of the not normal media, quote unquote normal. If you're going to go to Channel 8, which I have a link to, 8 News Now, if you're going to go to Review Journal, if you're going to the Las Vegas Sun, they cover general stuff. In fact, the headline I've linked to for 8 News Now is an example of ridiculous. The problem with Nevada Business, Vegas Business Digest, and there are others, they are all focused on big business and real estate. I know the Vegas Business Digest was founded by Minja, I can't remember, Minja Y. Starts with a Y. Minja is a real estate broker, real estate agent, whatever. She's in real estate. So she founded the Vegas Business Digest, but the content on the Vegas Business Digest is geared heavily towards real estate style spending and business focus and so on. So it is not about startup businesses. I mean, there may be some startup stuff in there. One of the guest columnists is Tina Quigley from the LVGEA. You will hear me comment on this until the end of time. The LVGEA is not properly focused on entrepreneurial ecosystem development, most definitely in part, because of the person they hired to be their Senior Vice President of Entrepreneurial Community Development, or whatever the title actually is. So these are 2 business media productions that I believe fall far short when we talk about our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem, and something we need to work on. We need to talk Greater Vegas, as I said. And finally, this is critical news, as I have described it in the links. There is an adult playground opening at the Luxor on the Strip sometime in January. That is reported by 8 News Now. I'm sure it's reported headlines everywhere. It's critical. You may have heard me mention during Formula One week, it was a Global Entrepreneur Week. No mention anywhere. I myself was the local lead for the NASA. I don't know if you've ever heard of NASA, the National Aeronautic and Space Administration. they had a little event called the International Space Apps Challenge, the largest 2-day hackathon in the world. Yeah, I couldn't get anyone to care about that. So no media coverage for we're the innovation hub of Nevada. Not a peep. And the list goes on. So there's really not a lot of focus outside of that group of 250 people on entrepreneurial endeavors, even though I want to say, I'm not going to look. I think from memory, I'm going to say it was 16,000 business licenses, which seems low. It does seem low for, well, it might be more. It might be 160,000. See, now I want to look. I'm going to look. Bear with me. Hear my mouse clicking. I got it. Got the page. Survey says, oh, the data was last updated December 18th, 2023. That's cool. And I got to remember how full details. No, we have, I may cut the, oh, okay. Yeah. See, I was right. Not 16,000, 116,570 business licenses. In fact, I'm going to totally steal this as my cover art. Yeah. Okay. So 116,570 business licenses in the Clark County, Greater Vegas area. That's pretty good. 254 people representing that, warmly introduced. In order to do, this is not often brought up. And if you're going to select a small population to be representative of a larger population, there are some rules. You can say that 12 people on a jury represent a particular county because they're chosen at random. They're actually chosen by their DMV records usually, but reasonably random, right? So if you select a cohort of 246 people truly at random, you could argue that is a representative sample of 116, if they're entrepreneurs, 116,000 business licenses. If we assume a substantial number of those people are also entrepreneurs, but the warm introduction thing really throws it off. Anyway, so 116,570 business licenses, and our news channels cover crime, politics, sports stadiums, construction projects, Formula One, Super Bowl, and adult playgrounds. And now on with the show. So it isn't just me. You hear me complain all the time. And I have a lot to say about just the use of that word. I've been told recently that I complain a lot. And I always, well, I don't always, but the thing is, before I moved to Vegas, I've mentioned this before, I was home in Sunnyvale, California. It was about 1:30 in the morning, I think. And there was a rapping on my door. And it was not the Raven. It was my neighbors. And they were yelling and screaming and pounding on doors and windows. And I quite literally was like, what the hell, man? Get away from me. Yeah. Well, because the house was on fire. Oh, thanks. So that went well. I could have said, you guys are complaining a lot. So the difference between complaining and what I do is people that complain are usually deciding that someone should fix that. I'm going to complain about it until somebody does. And the things I talk about are things that are getting in the way of fixing things. So when I say we have a lack of innovation culture and that prevents civic volunteerism from making progress in any sort of community elevation projects that will help develop job skills, as simple as the ability to collaborate, to build a portfolio. It doesn't have to be tech, so it could be creative, coding, whatever. There's a bunch of stuff to do. So when I say there's just no culture of innovation here to drive people to desire participation in such things, I am sometimes told, well, yeah, you seem really angry. You complain a lot about this. I'm like, well, because I put a lot of effort into the things we're trying to accomplish. So more often lately, since I've stopped talking to those 250 people so much, I'm finding other people recognizing the same shortcomings, not exactly the same shortcomings that I recognize, and they're anecdotes. So no one has done a introspective on the current state of affairs of our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem. Coming soon. But a couple of things that have come up just recently, past couple of weeks. Transactional meetups, I should say. They're more about trolling for clients. So people are there. They're more interested in like, oh, tell me what you're doing so that I can convert you. I can turn you into a paying client. So it's very, very transactional and very solipsistic. There's not really novel conversations about, how to. There's no worthwhile discussion about what could be. It's really more about, are you going to pay me? I'm not the one saying that. I'm hearing that from other people. Discovery is still a challenge. People will say, a lot of people are saying, in fact, more than one other person saying that it's really hard to figure out what's going on, where, who. So discovery in general. How do I figure out what's going on? Well, the Mo Collins warm introduction scheme is one way to do it. You find the person that everybody points to. It's sort of the PageRank, the random surfer. Like, ooh, everybody seems to be pointing at that person. I will go talk to them. And then that person will say, oh, you should talk to these other two people, and so on and so on. And you end up with the same problem. You're only speaking with people who know each other. Not that they have an agenda, but you're not getting novel interaction. So it's really important to figure out how to cross paths. And this was, as I have said many times at the Downtown Project, first of all, there are some good things from it. That's why the retrospective is important. Second, serendipitous collisions are a fine idea. They're not a business model, so you can't really count on them, but we should make them more likely than we do. So discovery tools and a culture of discovery. So not only just a culture of innovation, but we also need a culture of discovery, which means network. I don't mean network like go and look for clients. I mean, hey, there's a meetup about this thing, and you might say, I'm not really interested in that thing. And then I say, do you know anybody who might be? And then you say, yeah. And then I say, are you going to tell them about it? And because this is Vegas, you would say, nah. And that's a problem. So discovery is not merely tools. It's not calendars and blogs and Meetup and Eventbrite and all that. It's another element of a culture or an entrepreneurial ecosystem, which is, oh, I know a person you should talk to. I know a meetup you should attend. I know how you can advance your cause by doing these three things and sharing that information. Not for money. I mean, maybe that's what you do, but maybe for karma. If you can say, hey, you should talk to these two people, or hey, there's a meetup next Thursday at the Ahern or whatever, that will come back to you. Who knows? That person might hunt you down and say, hey, I was talking to 3 different people. They all want to be your clients, right? That comes back. So help make the ecosystem stronger, And then finally, showing up. Showing up is always going to be a problem. I recently had a meetup, 10 RSVPs, 3 showed up. And I was frankly impressed that 3 showed up. I thought it was going to be 2. Oh, no, technically 4. One person said they were not going to show up, but they did. But that person gets a pass because we know each other. But anyway, yeah, so a total of 4 people plus myself. I thought it was going to be 2 out of the 10. So that was pretty good. A pleasant surprise. A surprise, though, nonetheless. Those doing something new here face a bit of a climb, and that is also something that is only more apparent. The more people you speak to who are coming here from other places, they haven't been here for years, but months, they say the same thing. It's they're kind of on their own. Now, entrepreneurs should be able to be on their own, but we cannot tout the entrepreneurial strengths of Nevada on the whole, and Southern Nevada in particular. If we like walking into a casino, you are told the gaming tables are over there. Good luck. The entrepreneur stuff, go to Tech Alley. Good luck. There's a little bit more to it. And then networking skills, like I said, they need work. Introductions. Even though I commented earlier on the warm introduction thing, introductions or in general, helping to point people in the right direction, because that will come back to you. If you are known as someone who doesn't try to take and execute transactions, but instead points people in the right direction, maybe you're acting a little bit kind of like a part-time mentor. Like, oh yeah, hey, do this and go to there and, not the pat answer. Oh, go talk to these 2 people. Go to that event. Everything else will come from that. It's not that simple. So anyway, so those are the things I'm hearing from other people. So it's not just me, although I am complaining all the time. So sometimes it is me. The Formula One race is done. They were putting the streets back together. I think there was going to be, it was November 18th, I think it was. So there's going to be about 3 or 4 weeks of repairs. And so into December, and then Christmas and New Year's and Hanukkah and then New Year's Eve, fireworks and so on. And now today is January 5. And the headlines now are, and I didn't put this on here, but we are starting construction on the Strip for the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is in. So, as I mentioned, the Formula One economic impact is trickling out. We'll still do a post show about that to get more of the real picture. I think it will be essential that we do an introspection on a rolling basis for small business and entrepreneurial people in the greater Vegas area so that we don't rely on the skewed media that focuses on big business. Big business is a big deal. We are not. Just in time for some disappointment on the part of local business and downtown in particular. The construction and chaos of Formula One was the beginning. Construction of the Super Bowl is continuing. Who knows what will come next? Again, the introspection, I'm just going through my bullets here and I moved the introspection up. Introspective feedback from businesses of all sizes and types with measurable impact from these events and the surrounding chaos of construction. What is really happening? I'm going to pause because my idiot fellow tenant in this building likes to play music. Hang on. And we're back. Let's pick up where we left off. There was a little noise situation. I will probably leave it in. Why not? It's the new year. So we were just wrapping up on the need for an introspection, ongoing rolling surveys. There should not be any surprise when there is a material impact on small business for the sake of large business or otherwise. We got daily updates when the pandemic caused small business to shut down or to run the risk of shutting down, and then eventually a lot of them did. So we need to know when there's impact on this entrepreneurialism that the state of Nevada aims to be the leader of. It's on deck. That will be something we're working on it now. So the Empowering Entrepreneurship Report will probably go unread and unheeded. Like I said, there are some things in there that are pretty basic. There are some things in there based on old information or information that may or may not be accurate in general. And then there are good suggestions that we should implement ourselves. We do have that power. You know what happens when you get a bunch of entrepreneurs in a room? Nobody wants to work for the other, but you're in a room full of people who are used to addressing problems. And real entrepreneurs will not wait for someone else to address a problem. They will either figure out how to do it, how to address it, fix it, close the gap, or they'll be generally supportive of the people who do. I have heard from many people about our local media. One in particular, one entrepreneur here in the Vegas area, said, how come local media doesn't cover entrepreneurs like me? And that person posted on LinkedIn, the worst website in the world, like and share if you agree we need better media. And I said, what does liking and sharing do? Nothing. If you're really interested in doing this, making this better, you have to do something. It doesn't include posting anything on LinkedIn. It definitely doesn't include liking and sharing. And he said, but I don't have time. I said, well, you can support people who do, whatever that means. So we need our entrepreneurial state, and especially the Southern Nevada part of it, to take action and to be proactively engaged to make sure our entrepreneurial ecosystem does what we need it to do, that it's there for what we want to accomplish, and that there's room for it to improve and a way to measure that it does. Entrepreneurs and innovators will most certainly be better off if our state, county, and city governments enable these things and then stay out of the way. And now the data. Show us the data, in fact. I've pointed to the GeoCommons. There's another open data website that I will bring up in another episode. It's about government spending, like open government, something like that. It's an open data set, very similar, not as geographically oriented as the GeoCommons. There's another same website, LVMPD, the Las Vegas Metro Police Department, publishes incident data, ton of other stuff. It's actually pretty useful. Very ugly, not user-friendly. But if you know how to navigate, you can find some pretty interesting stuff in there. And then my least favorite agency in Nevada, RTC, I believe also has an open data portal on ArcGIS. It probably doesn't work. Or if it does, it's late. But we need data. We need the open data program that it's managed by the city of Las Vegas mostly to grow, or to at least be able to accept new data. There's an open data capture platform project in the project catalog for the Innovate for Vegas Foundation, which, as you may or may not know, I am the managing director of. So that is something we can work on. If our innovation culture was a little bit stronger, there would be more people to work on it. But we have we have this data. In fact, it is part of the origin story of the Code for Vegas organization before the Code for Vegas Foundation reboot and the Innovate for Vegas Foundation rename. So open data is part of our own legacy. It's very useful if you're ever trying to build an application, if you want to figure out where parking lots are or city boundaries or where business licenses are, among other things. There's tons of data on there. Very useful. So can we add more? And can we gather how Formula One races impact certain businesses? If you look at geographical data and you were to say, oh, these businesses along the race path, the racetrack route were impacted this much. If you look at related, like second degree, a mile away, 2 miles away, you can look at different areas and different time spans. And this would be based on self-reporting, so, there'd be inherent bias. But these are things that we could actually do. We can actually assess what the impact on small businesses when we focus entirely with our fun economy on big business. We can connect it with tourism data, which is fairly granular. I believe it's down to the week over week, and so on. The LVCVA website does have a bit of data. We've talked about this in other episodes, and we'll talk about it again. The introspection process must be ongoing. I know I laughed out loud to bring this back up again. I saw that the RTC, the Regional Transit Commission, conducted their 10-year survey of riders. Every 10 years. That is amazing. I have a Google Rewards survey application on my mobile device. It asks me a couple times a week questions, and it pays me like 10 cents per, sometimes more. We have the technology and we have the method to reach people. We could be asking people questions about business, about life, about access to resources, whether their bus is on time. We can do all this. So we should be and intend to capture more data, and we should be able to do so without merely satisfying campaign rhetoric or some sort of messaging trying to quell unrest. Hey, the Formula One race was amazing. Trust us. Really, you did great. As people are shutting down their businesses, there are things that impact only people on the ground, and they don't get covered in the news unless you attach your current business situation to an adult playground or a baseball stadium or crime. That last one might be easier than you think. So in addition to showing us the data, how about showing us anything? Business in Southern Nevada is big, not small. Small business is something that, what is that exactly? If you stick these business publications in the links on your browser and you look, you'll see a whole lot of big business. You'll see casinos and real estate and construction projects and all kinds of good news. But what about the small businesses? What about those 116,570 business licenses? Each one, some fraction at least of each one. No, each one in the fraction that is small and startup businesses probably has a story to tell, but you will never hear them. And I've talked about this before, and this is obvious. So I have not invented anything with this notion. If you kill someone, you will get covered in the news every day for months. If you invent something, you will get 2 minutes on some TV show, or some lifestyle segment on a news program. You might get an article below the fold. And if you don't know what print newspapers are, that means where nobody will really see it once, And that's it. And hopefully people will just remember. So we need to be showing people and telling, show and tell, what kind of things are happening here. So Greater Vegas, I'm talking to you. I'm talking about you and to you, both. We need to be louder, prouder, and we need to have the channels through which we may publish and share, promote, advertise, and celebrate the entrepreneurial innovation, I say that too quickly, that we have going on here, because otherwise nobody knows. If you're not the fun economy, you're the economy. Gotta love water. Hey, we're not going to have as much as we thought. Luckily, Nevada is using less, or Southern Nevada is using less, but the snow melt, well, it's going to be interesting. If you launch something, the news will not cover it. I already told you in the preamble to this show, to this episode, one of my trials with the NASA International Space Apps Challenge couldn't get anyone to write 2 words, maybe even 1 word, anywhere. And that's a challenge that is not left to nonprofit public charities like Innovate for Vegas Foundation. Again, if you're a startup and you want to launch a product, unless you're opening a restaurant, restaurants, you will get coverage. So everybody should open a restaurant. Whatever your company or startup or idea is, call it a restaurant. There's a reason food trucks are popular. You don't even need to buy a restaurant. You can rent a truck from Ibarra, put your company logo on it, go to First Friday. Don't even sell any food. $400, I think it is. Maybe $450 now, $500. At least people will know what you're doing. It's not a half bad idea. It's dumb, but it's not bad. So yeah, we gotta fix that. And that's something that also we're working on. The MyMuni project, the Smart Social project, the VLocal project, they all kind of fit together. They're all independent projects, but when you like Lego products, you can stick them together to build one thing. You don't have to stick them together to build another thing. So one of the things we can build is a better media platform, and we can cater to the people doing interesting things. The fun economy gets plenty of coverage. Real estate, big business, you got people. By the way, did I mention Minja, Vegas Business Digest? She's in real estate. I did mention that. So coincidentally, a lot of real estate coverage in there. I'm more of an entrepreneur type. I like working with entrepreneurs and innovators. A platform I'm involved with will cover more of those things. See, we'll complement each other. All good. So what's next? And this is ending up to be a nice beginning to the new year. I already said Happy New Year. Let us find out. We need to better understand our ecosystem. The entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem of Southern Nevada is not a simple matter of sprinkling money on top. It's not a simple matter of gathering 246 somewhat related friends and drawing a picture of irrational exuberance. The way that the entrepreneurial ecosystem will develop, the way the innovation culture will flourish, can a culture flourish, is by people in those things, people in the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem who would like to see a stronger, cultivated, I'm making this up as I go along, innovation culture. They need to be directly involved one way or another so that we can make changes and improvements to these things from within, not from visiting consultants with boilerplate output, not from employees, city staffers, inflated titles, people who are not entrepreneurs but will pretend to be entrepreneurs, if you will, political types, people who are in it for the money, people who want to help their friends. These are the people that are running things now. I don't want to make this into a conspiracy thing, but a stronger ecosystem will be the result of people who are in the ecosystem taking a proactive interest, participating, and if not participating, at least paying attention. We need more access. That means to each other, sure, to capital, resources. We need more education. We need more students interested. We need more interesting students. 10 years, starting with 7th grade, today. We'll see what happens when they turn 22. We need more engagement in general. We need better meetups. We need more people talking. We need more than just the usual 250, and not all those 250 even show up for things. Don't enter into transactional discussions that go nowhere. Spend your time wisely. Be a part of something that will help you and them and elevate the ecosystem. No more politics, no more gatekeeping, no more consolidation. More is better. More better is better, even still. We need an actual interface of the world. There are 40 million people visiting the greater Vegas area every year, give or take. There are 2.3 million people living in Clark County, roughly 577,000 in the city of Las Vegas proper, but the greater Vegas area is larger than the city of Las Vegas. Just don't tell them that. There's more to Vegas than the fun economy. Not that they know that, but they will. And it depends on you. And that is where I will leave this episode. Don't forget, I said I would mention it at the end, buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo, DANHUGO. 7 letters, like a phone number. How can you go wrong? You don't have to buy me a coffee, but you can find all my podcasts. There are 4. And don't forget, you can always participate. If you are a part of the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem, or want to be, and you want to talk, that's what impresarios are. I selected the spelling in particular to be a slightly unusual, novel, maybe even innovative. Let me know what you think. Tell the audience, growing as it is, what's up from your perspective. Don't listen to the people on high. Anything that will happen of note in the greater Vegas area for the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem will come from you. That's it. Have a good one. Happy New Year. Hopefully you're staying safe. And if you, like me, are going to CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, which you are not to refer to it as. I'm just looking at their branding guidelines because that's what I do. You can call it CES. Do not call it the Consumer Electronics Show. So just forget I said that. Thanks for listening. I'm going to chop out the long pauses as usual, and I'll leave in the silliness from my proximal tenant. It's not my tenant. I'm a tenant too, but people suck. All right. Catch you next week. Not sure exactly how I'll pull off CES plus doing 4 podcast episodes for the 4 audio programs I produce each week. Don't cry for me. Ciao.